This is the third and final class in our series about jump-starting a Glowforge-powered business for the holiday season. This last class is all about how you go from having that great product to selling it. We'll cover building your brand and then starting an online store. Those steps might sound the most complicated, but I promise they're not. In fact, many of the core pieces of your brand are probably already in your head and your heart. We're just going to help you bring them out to make the experience of buying a product from you feel special, unique, and like something customers definitely want to do again. In the first class, we talked about who you're planning to sell your items to and how to offer a personalized product that is exactly what they want and that the competition can't offer. In the second class, we talked through planning for your holiday season, coming up with prices that help you meet your goals, and how to scale your production. Today, we'll talk about bringing your product to market, as we say in the biz, and we'll do that in 3 parts. 1, coming up with a brand, logo, brand voice, brand story, all of that. 2, deciding where to sell. And 3, a few key marketing tips to get you started on reaching a worldwide audience. Brand? You might be thinking, I just want to sell tree ornaments at a local holiday craft fair. Certainly, I don't need a brand. It's true that without putting the time and effort into creating a unique brand, you will probably still sell some of your products. But I really don't recommend that you skip this part. Why? Because branding is the most magical, powerful tool you have. It can cost very little, but it can determine how much people will value the things you sell. Think of some brand names in your head. Think about where you get your morning coffee or the device you're watching this class from. Think about the feelings, words, colors, and style associated with those brands. You as a consumer know them without even studying them or trying to remember them because they're traits that these huge companies have embedded in their brands for years. So why have a brand behind your product? Because it makes you memorable and distinguishable. Brands tell us a story about the people behind the product, or at the very least, they tell us how to feel about a product. They tell us which brands are higher quality than others, which ones we should pay more for, and which ones to buy from again. And you don't need to be a marketing guru to build a brand. To kick off a new brand, you'll want to think of how to tell your story through things like your company name, your logo, and your photography style. You've got a story to tell, right? For example, it can be a personal story, like that you grew up playing with an antique dollhouse in your grandparents' attic, which sparked your love for making miniatures. Your business could be called Martha's Miniatures after your grandmother, and your brand look could be antique and vintage feeling with nods to grandma, like teacups. Or you could take it in a different direction. You could aim to have your brand tell people what to feel about your product. For example, maybe your love for miniatures is based on the feeling that the clock seems to slow or stand still when you spend time with tiny things. Your business could be called Minute by Minute Miniatures, and you could use a clock motif in your branding. Once you know what your brand is, you can use that to help inspire the look and feel that you want your brand to convey in visuals like your logo, social media, or photos and retail spaces. Donnie from Patriot Hat Co. has one of the most incredible Glowforge stories. He has been able to quit his job and run their Glowforge-powered company full-time, and it's on track to make $500,000 in sales this year. He also happens to have a great story about the slogan they've incorporated into their packaging and product lines. Here's what he said. We took some time off last year and disconnected from everything and rented a small cabin on a lake in the absolute middle of nowhere. We were sitting at the kitchen table making those little beaded necklaces that you can piece words together with the letter beads. My son made me one that said, "Enjoy the day," and told me he was happy we were there together and hopes that I can enjoy the day and not work so much. The necklace hangs in my rearview mirror at my truck and I look at it each time I drive. It's just such a warm message that can be used at any point during the day when talking with someone. Patriot Hat Co. has incorporated this Enjoy the Day slogan into stickers on all their packaging, and it puts small postcards with a family photo and an explanation of the phrase into all their packages. Donnie says, each packing slip, we handwrite a thank you note and sign our names. It is something you don't see often, and getting a personal message is always awesome. I agree, and I recommend any personal touches you can add. Bravo, Donnie. Another crucial element of branding is product photography. Even if you don't plan to sell your products online, I recommend investing in product photography for your social media site and website, which we'll get to towards the end of class. In fact, when you submit to enter a craft show, you'll often need to include photos of what your booth or presence at the event would look like. So keep listening either way. And don't worry, investing doesn't mean spending thousands of dollars on equipment. Investing your time in learning how to take the best images with the camera you already have is often more valuable. And if you do plan to sell online, learning to take good photos of your products can mean the difference between a ton of interest and sales and very little for the same product. For each product, you'll need to take several photos for the listing. Photos that show the quality and craftsmanship that went into them, give shoppers an idea of the size or fit of the product, and ideally reflect the brand you've built. Some selling platforms even allow for GIFs or short videos, which I really recommend experimenting with. If you're brand new to photography, the good news is that most smartphone cameras are high quality enough to produce gorgeous results, so there's no need to invest in expensive photo equipment. There are tons of smartphone product photography videos on YouTube, so I'd start there. Depending on your product, you'll want to opt for either natural or artificial lights and consider things like props or models if you're selling something that people wear. It's a good idea to also consider taking photos both alone on a simple background and in situ, in the natural situation the product would be in. Look for props that reflect your brand or add texture, color, levels, or dimension to your photos. For example, for Martha's Miniatures brand, imagine we are photographing a miniature floral print sofa meant for a dollhouse. We might photograph the sofa alone on white, and then we might photograph it on an antique side table with doilies next to a porcelain teacup to reflect the vintage vibe of our brand and emphasize how tiny it is. If we expect that our target market has children that would play with the product, perhaps we include photos of children playing with the items. These days, running a business can happen from the comfort of home. There are a ton of different ways to run a completely digital business to sell your goods. Many people join a seller's marketplace site like Etsy, Facebook Marketplace, or Amazon Handmade. You could also sell exclusively on your own site with tools like Shopify or Squarespace. If you've never done anything like this before, don't worry. More folks than ever are using these tools with more varying degrees of technical ability and business savvy than ever, and they're finding tons of success. And as we mentioned in our first class, services like Fiverr or Upwork are full of creatives who can help get your site up and running, often for less than you'd think. If you do choose a marketplace, make sure you're aware of any fees associated with listing, transactions, or payment processing. These are normal things for the marketplace to charge, but it's important that you factor those into the product pricing plan that we covered in the previous class. The great thing about listing on a marketplace rather than designing just your own site is that it helps shoppers discover you as they browse online for the products they're already looking for. On the other hand, as you probably know, the holiday season is a particularly popular time for in-person retail shopping. There are lots more vendor markets this time of year than others. Keep in mind that many of these shows and markets often require an application, which sometimes includes a fee. And in those applications, they'll want to know what sets you apart from other people who sell earrings or coasters or leather handbags. And of course, it's your beautiful brand and story. If you sell in person at marketplaces or by renting space in boutiques or other retail spaces, staging is incredibly important. Try to create an eye-catching space with clear signage that reflects your brand. Consider bringing in a big showcase piece, even if it's not for sale, or offering an activity like a drawing or interactive game to win a basket or a discount at your booth. You want your space to feel buyer-friendly. Your product should be easy to access and examine and clearly priced. Make sure you bring display tools to help add levels to your booth setup, like mini shelving units, tree stumps, cake plates, or in the case of our Martha's Miniatures brand, vintage suitcases, teacups, and doilies, whatever suits your brand. And don't forget, your Glowforge is an incredible tool for creating signage, displays, and more. Gabby from Stitchcraft Art makes her own embroidery hoops in every size and shape her heart desires to house her on-trend embroidery pieces. She has some advice about selling at fairs that I just had to include for you. She says, presentation is everything for both your products and yourself. First, practice your setup before the actual event to get a good idea of how things will be laid out. Ensure that your products fill up the space nicely and that there's a lot at eye level, utilizing the vertical space in your booth area. Secondly, people at craft shows are also buying your personal brand in a more direct way than they are online. Try to come as the best version of yourself and engage with potential customers. That doesn't mean be pushy, but invite them to come closer, ask if they have questions, and ask what else they've seen that day. Personal connection means a lot in the craft fair environment. As an introvert, that's the hardest part for me, but the more you practice, the better you will get. I want to kick off this last section with some wisdom from Jamie Locke, who's been a full-time creator for more than 7 years and knows a thing or two about selling her creations online. Jamie says, create an easy-to-use and maintain website. Besides having a social media presence, which I feel is just as important, having a website to direct customers to view or purchase your work can be especially useful when social media sites are down or are glitchy. If Instagram were to shut down tomorrow, will your customers know where to find you? Use your sphere of influence to help get the word out about your product and services. Your friends and family can be some of your best marketers and cheerleaders. Don't be shy about asking for their help in getting your business off the ground. Don't forget about SEO, or search engine optimization. One benefit of choosing to be on a marketplace like Etsy is that shoppers are already coming to that site to look for things to buy, and you can benefit from the keyword search tools that the platforms have built in. To make yourself the most discoverable for people who are looking for you, carefully consider how you name and describe your products and take advantage of any tagging tools built into the platform to increase the chances of being found. For Martha's Miniatures, you'd likely use tags such as dollhouse and miniature, but you might want to highlight other aspects of your business someone might be looking for, such as small business, handmade, personalized, or even Glowforge. Building your business social media accounts will also help people find your products when they're looking for them. In terms of social media, I recommend creating a standalone account for your business separate from a personal account. And which platform? Well, consider where your target market spends their time. Is it YouTube? Instagram? The key practice is posting consistent content so that your followers keep you top of mind when they're shopping and that your feed looks active and of the season. Emily from EJ Artistry, who makes stunning multimedia resin pour pieces inspired by nature, told me about the importance of the modest but mighty community that she's built up on her Instagram. She said to me, "I'm most proud of the buying audience on my Instagram. A lot of makers struggle with selling because a lot of their followers are fellow makers, but you can have makers and buyers. The people who have gathered at my page may not be 100K, but they are all organic, real, engaged, kind people who continually repeat buy, send gifts to my 10-year-old and me when he unexpectedly went to the hospital, laugh with me, cry with me, and help sell out my monthly restock sales of over 300 to 400 items in 30 minutes or less. I may be at 17K followers, but the power of my audience is in the millions, and I have the utmost gratitude for the people who are supporting my family and letting me live my dream. And the fact that I have built that is a really cool feeling." That is absolutely something to be proud of. Lastly, a tried and true digital marketing tip I want you to consider is email. Email is something you may have noticed I run at Glowforge, so I'm a bit of an expert myself. Even if you've never sent emails for a business before, diving in doesn't have to be time intensive. Start by setting a goal of sending a monthly email newsletter to your subscribers to show them what you've been working on and expand from there. Remember, your followers love your brand story. That's why they're here. If you're new to email, not to worry. There are lots of free email tools like MailChimp to get you started. And if you're wondering how to collect emails, remember, just email the people who already love your work. When someone purchases an item from your store, add them to your email list. If you're selling in person, you can also collect email addresses at your booth. You could do a drawing or other contest to collect emails. Just be sure to include a statement to let people know that you'll be sending them marketing emails when they sign up. That way, you can email them about new products or themed collections, markets they can find you at, surveys about what products they would like to see from you, etc. And that's the end of our third session. This is the last one. Can you believe it? We've covered a lot of ground. In the first two classes, we went over how to design your next holiday bestseller, how to plan, produce, and price for the holiday rush, and more. So much more. And now in this final class, you learned about branding yourself and getting your store online. You know what happens next, right? You take all this info and turn it into a profitable business for the holidays and beyond. After all this time talking, it is time for creating. So what will you make next? I can't wait to see. Happy holidays.